And that's the stock bond relationship, right? If you own some stocks, you may say, look, on the other side, I'm going to put some money in some government bonds. So in case the stocks fall, the government bonds should rise, right? Because they're non-correlated assets.
And welcome into the program. This is your game plan for retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for a common sense approach to planning for your money, your investments, your financial and retirement future. President and founder of McIntire Retirement Services, Chris McIntire, with us. And Chris, we always appreciate the time. Today, going to be talking about the celebration of our work and labor. No, not Labor Day, the true celebration of all that hard work and labor, retirement.
Yeah, there you go. That's a much better topic to talk about than just starting out and looking for 30 more years of work, right?
Yeah, well, forget one day off, man. I want 30 years off.
There you go, buddy. Yep.
Well, we'll talk about all that it takes in order for you to stop trading your time for money and to live the confident, comfortable lifestyle that you envision and dream about in retirement. And whether you're planning and preparing, making your way there, or even already retired, the information on today's program, of course, will provide insight and guidance, some of the strategies, some of the obstacles in your way, the challenges, the risks, the issues that you will face, and then how to plan proactively to address those head on and realize those opportunities when they present themselves. As always, Chris McIntire, your resource. So many across Northwestern Ohio have taken advantage of the opportunity to plan with Chris and the team from McIntire Retirement Services. But so many more need to put that plan together or get a review, an evaluation, and an update on where their dollars and their investments stand. So Chris McIntire, the true value of the program, always makes that offer, that opportunity available to you, ladies and gentlemen. All you need to do is pick up the phone and give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. So, Chris, the holiday represents kind of the unofficial end of summer, but retirement's been called the forever summer, right? And where every day is a weekend. And that's what we all really are striving for when we put in all of that hard work and show up to work every day.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, every day's a Saturday. And I have a lot of clients say that, there's times they wake up and they forget which day it is just because, you're not in your routine of doing the same exact thing. And I don't think Peter and I have anything to worry about there. We know exactly what day it is.
Yeah, yeah, they do tend to move quick, but I'm generally cognizant. Is it the start of the week, the middle of the week, the end of the week? Because I know when I've got to set that alarm clock, right, Chris? And if we are honest, the American work environment is a pretty good one, right? We pay attention to these unemployment numbers, but we are by far the richest nation in the world, and the average wage in America I mean, just it is not even a comparison what the average wage is globally. Sure, there are some pockets of wealth elsewhere. Absolutely. There are some rich countries out there, but the American worker has it pretty good if we really take stock of everything and evaluate, right, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a capitalistic society, and it rewards hard work typically. And, that's our ebb and flow of the politics that we have right now. And, we'll try to steer clear from that so we don't get any nasty emails or anything. But, free enterprise, and that you're rewarded, and entrepreneurs get rewarded for, taking risks that turn out to be successful. Obviously, they don't always, right? It's not a system that treats everybody equally. You and I are independent. We started our own businesses. We work very hard. We've been able to, we've had to ride the ups and downs of all of that. And, over a culmination of years of effort, you enjoy some degree of success. Same with the people listening to the show today. They've worked their way up the corporate ladders, and, sometimes, a couple of the rungs get broken on those ladders, and, detrimental things happen. They get forced out. Companies go out of business. So, there's a lot of ebb and flow over a working career. But, with the way that the U.S. economy is set up, you can put money away into your 401ks and save money and become millionaires, and just by showing up to work and putting forth a good solid effort. It's certainly hard to beat that.
Well, let's talk about that effort, Chris, because we we do a lot for money, right? We, at the end of the day, trade our time for it when we would be rather doing almost anything else. And there are certainly things that all of us could probably think about that we would rather be doing than working. We don't. We set the alarm, we put in the hours, we put in the labor, the sweat equity, we show up to work. We trade our time for money so that we can have enough money to do with the remaining time what we truly want to do. Hobbies or passions or spending time with friends or family, whatever the case is, that's what we would rather be doing. But we trade away some of our time to earn that paycheck, to get that income, to get that salary. And Chris, along the way, we need to be saving and investing a portion of that so that one day, whether by choice or maybe not by choice, unintended, when the ability to make that trade stops or the desire is to stop making that trade, we can do so. And then the dollars have to work for us. They are the ones that have to put in the labor and the sweat equity.
Yeah, yeah, without question. And, typically the things that today's retirees are going to face is that anxiety of, not going to work tomorrow and no longer getting a paycheck. We're working with a couple of folks right now that, have just recently retired and, good solid paying jobs and, the anxiety of, okay, did I really save enough money to do it? I mean, the reality now hits and how do we do it? Now, I've been used to putting money into my 401k. Now I've got to take money out of it. And how do I know how much is safe to take out? You think of all those emotional issues that come up there. And, for us, it's something we do every day. It's pretty easy to understand. And, at some point in time, you and I, Peter, we're both going to have to face that same element. We're just more conditioned to it because it's what we help people do. And we learn from their mistakes a lot of times, right? And, you get a couple of gray hairs, and Peter's got some on there too. For those of you that watch the podcast, he's a little younger than I am, but you know, we we help people with manage these emotions so that they don't make bad decisions, so to speak, or an incorrect decision. Maybe we shouldn't call it a bad decision.
The,
Um,
the gray
and
hair, Chris, has begin to become a running theme of the program here, I think.
yeah,
Hey, you mentioned the reversal of the direction of money, that during our working career, the money is going in, we are savers, we're investors, and then after retirement, we start making those withdrawals. Is that a true moment where there is a sense of anxiety? Do things begin to tighten up when those dollars begin to reverse direction for people and they feel a little anxious or cautious or even worried or scared?
yeah, yeah, without question. I can read it on people's faces, because we're a face-to-face business. We're not on, we're not talking to people on headsets in a big call center to say, oh, you're going to be fine. We'll take care of everything. That's the difference when you're sitting across the table from them. And it might not be the worker that just retired. It might be the worker's spouse who's the one that's really nervous and anxious. And, that's very, if you look at my wife and I, if an event happens to us, one will take one side, the other will take the other, right, to make cooler heads prevail, and check the emotions and everything like that. That's very common, in a married couple. If we get somebody who's divorced and retired, there's not much room for error there a lot of times because you don't have a spousal social security benefit coming in and whatnot. So, everybody needs to, have that personal one-on-one touch to manage their way through this anxiety. And, I've got clients that are way too conservative for really what their life expectancy is, but they've had experiences that said, I don't want to deal much with the stock market at all. I'll take low boring returns at 4 or 5% instead. But, when you miss those years of 10, 12, and 15, you really, hurt your compounding of dollars. So, we try to coach people through a lot of this, Peter, as you know.
Chris, since today's career path for many people, that's going to span 30 to 35 years, but today's retirement can be equally as long, 30 to 35 years, unless we've saved half of every dollar that we've earned. Most people haven't. Unless we've done that, we need some growth on our money. We need to have some exposure to the opportunity for those dollars to work all along the way during our working career in order to have enough one day to retire confidently.
Yeah, we deal a lot with people in terms of buckets. So let's say use that three bucket approach, if you will. One of those buckets could be tax-free money, taxable money, tax-deferred money. It could be very low growth, safe money, medium growth money, and then your higher risk bucket, if you will, for the long term, for 10 years down the road, where you can enjoy the fruits of a bull market, and obviously you could suffer some of the bear market as well. But if you think of it in those approaches, and if you're 65 years old and your parents live to be 90 or 95, right? I mean, that's not a short-term investment horizon, even though your working career is over. So trying to help people, and understand that balance approach that they need to have, and having a safe money strategy with their long-term investment strategy, gives you that peace of mind in knowing that, hey, you know what? Yep, I'm suffering a loss over here because they raised interest rates 11 times in a row, but my safe money didn't lose anything. So, that's what planning does for you. And, look, listen, we're all pretty smart people. And when you've been in the business a long time, you get a couple of gray hairs. You've been through a number of crises, and you understand what worked, what didn't work. And I think that's what helps us, be successful for our clients.
Chris, you're talking about this bucket strategy, which we have talked about on the program before. Go over that again, and give us the perspective of the time horizon and time optimizing a withdrawal strategy for retirement, and how that works, how that helps you arrive at a correct order of operations for your clients' lasting financial confidence.
Sure. Yeah. And let's kind of, start at the 30,000 foot level, if you will. And, so somebody comes in and they've retired, and we're going to use a round number, $1 million, right? And if you've got $500,000, just divide this stuff in half. But $1 million, and they say, we do a risk analysis and all of that, and we're showing them some examples and say, look, let's say we put a third of your money in something that's very safe, okay, that you can't lose anything in, with the market between CDs, money market accounts, and fixed annuities, that type of thing. And then we've got the mid-range bucket where, maybe we've got a 50-50 portfolio, 50% stocks, 50% bonds. Maybe that helps create some income as well, interest off of bonds, dividends off of stocks. And then you can put some dollars over in your long-term bucket for 10 years down the road, where if the market does go on a run, you want to be able to capture some of those significant gains that it can deliver. And that's a pretty tried and true tested method of long-term success for retirement planning, right? Now, if you're working, Peter's age is probably Peter's in his early 40s, I'm assuming there. His son just started high school. So obviously he's got a long-term perspective. He's not a big bond investor. Peter be putting his money into stocks, probably 100% of it, if I know Peter. And, even myself, I'm 59 years old. I don't need the money right now. I'm not going to need it for a long time. I'm much more aggressive than a 60-year-old person that just retired today, obviously, because, they have a nest egg, and they need to protect a portion of that nest egg. And that doesn't mean that, we certainly have our safe strategy, but our long-term goals are still, knowing that the stock market delivers the highest rates of returns over the long horizon than bonds are going to.
This is all about getting the qualities out of our dollars that we need, and the growth, the safety, the liquidity, the income. Those are the basic four things that any dollar can do for us. But Chris, by having that diversification and different location between non-correlated locations, non-correlated type of assets, meaning they don't all move in the same direction at the same time. They don't all possess the same quality per se. That is how we are able to then get what we need from our money, with the growth, with the safety, with the liquidity, with the income. We've got to really look at how much we need of each, and then sort of divide our assets among those purposes, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Peter. And that's the stock bond relationship, right? If you own some stocks, you may say, look, on the other side, I'm going to put some money in some government bonds. So in case the stocks fall, the government bonds should rise, right? Because they're non-correlated assets. They almost work the opposite of one another. Now we're getting into an interest rate environment that looks like they're going to be cutting rates here for, nobody knows how long, but let's say they're probably going to go through a cutting rate cycle of several months here to, bring interest rates down to help spur economic growth. Well, that's good for bonds. When they lower interest rates on new bonds, older bonds paying a higher rate all of a sudden become worth more money. The opposite thing happened in 2022. So, you have to be able to adjust your investment landscape, because just because bonds did bad in 2022 doesn't mean you shouldn't own any in 2024. Yeah. And same with stocks. They did bad in 2022 and they did very good in 2023 and 2024 so far, right? We're not at December 31st yet.
Well, during our working career, Chris, we are performing the full-time job, and it's almost like the money is just a part-time worker, or for kind of the millennial slang, they are a gig worker, right? They've got one specific task that they are tasked with doing for us, and responsible for, and that is mostly growth, right? The money that we've saved and invested over on the side, it doesn't constitute all of our financial picture or well-being. We are the full-time employee. The dollars that we have invested are our part-time employees with the specific task of growth. But when we retire, it's like those dollars take on the full-time salaried employees' responsibilities. They must do everything. They are CEO and janitor across the board. They responsible for all tasks. I guess, to put it with another analogy here, as we are wrapping up and getting toward the end of baseball season, a team would not win if all they had was pitchers. If all they put out on the field was a pitcher, they would not win the game, more than likely, even if it was the best pitcher that existed, because you need different positions, different specialties to complete the task that you want to accomplish, which baseball, of course, winning the game, the pennant, the World Series. In our retirement, Chris, continued financial confidence is only going to come if we've got different positions for our dollars.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and some of those positions are stocks, bonds, CDs, money markets, annuities, but also from a tax standpoint, there's the tax-free side, the taxable side, and the tax-deferred side. Tax-free side would be your Roth IRAs or the cash value inside a life insurance policy. The taxable side would be, I've got money sitting in a money market account at the local bank. I'm earning 5%, or a CD earning 5%, and I'm paying tax on that every year. I get a 1099 for it. Okay. And then the tax deferred side would be your 401ks and IRAs, 403bs, that sort of thing.
Well, again, we are talking with Chris McIntire, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got questions, if you've got concerns, if you would like to have a complimentary review and retirement strategy session, pick up the phone, give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. So, Chris, we need growth from our money during our working career. When should we begin the process of that transition? When should we begin to say, hey, these dollars need to start replacing me as the laborer, as the income generator?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Peter. And, I suppose the variables within this answer are going to be, all right, are we getting a pension and Social Security, or just relying on your Social Security as the, kind of the only source of income guaranteed in your retirement? Okay. And, we certainly want to do this. For us, it's easier to do, up, say, 5 years in advance, for example. Somebody's going to retire at 65. Well, if you're 60 today, you might want to start that, retirement planning process of shifting from growth stocks into maybe dividend paying stocks, right? And reinvest those dividends, but at least you're getting work for the money, and you're probably taking a little volatility out of that part of your plan still, that part of your investment strategy that could still be in the high risk bucket, right? When we say high risk, we don't mean you're rolling the dice on Bitcoin or anything like that, but those would be your tech stocks, probably not necessarily things that pay dividends. And to diversify even within that bucket, they may want to look at look, can I put some money in a deferred income annuity now? That means I'm going to defer it for 5 years. And if I do, I'm going to get a bigger payout guaranteed, regardless of the performance of the account. Those are smart things to do ahead of time because, man, you're really starting to understand. You've got time to look at your budgeting and all of that is, the sooner you start things, the easier it gets. And, instead of saying, all right, I just turned 65, I don't have health insurance, who's a Medicare guy? And all right, what do I do with my 401k now? You want to start thinking of these things years in advance, obviously. The sooner the better, probably, because you're healthier as well, too. And, mental acuity plays a role in some of this as well.
And Chris, you've talked about kind of a math-based conclusion of what kind of investment tools may be appropriate or necessary, the income allocation process. But I want to get to that in a moment. You mentioned the 401k and this timeline of preparing and getting ready. 59 and a half is a bigger milestone and opportunity than most people realize. We've talked about this in previous shows, but I don't think we've mentioned it for a while. People really need to key in on this 59 and a half number as opening doors that were not previously opened to them, even if we are not retiring nor needing to withdraw money from our retirement savings on that day or right at 59 and a half. It does open up critical key opportunities that we need to be aware of and perhaps take advantage of, right?
No question about it, buddy, because 59 and a half is when you have access to your 401k or 403b proceeds, and you can do in-service rollover. So you take it from your 401k, directly put it into an IRA, and that's not a taxable event. And that typically happens at 59 and a half for a lot of you. And we have probably 6 of those going on right now, Peter, just that pre-retirement planning process. And it is fair to say here, Peter, I know we always throw this in there, is, a lot of people have had different jobs at different places. So, if you're 55 years old, but you changed jobs recently and you've got $100,000 at your old 401k, you can transfer that money into an IRA or roll over that money into an IRA without being 59 and a half. So not everybody is, they think these rules are set in stone and, you got to be 59 and a half before you can do anything. Well, if it's an older plan, and then in a place you've left employment, you can take that money and do something else with it.
And that could be one of those benchmark indicators that it is time to begin positioning dollars for retirement. If you've got older accounts left behind, that is a key indicator there. And then again, the 59 and a half, Chris, two important points with that. The in-service distribution does not necessarily have to be taxable in any way. You're going to circumvent the penalties and the taxes if you do it properly and roll it into an IRA. And then number 2 important point, if you are continuing to work, you continue participating in the 401k still and capturing the match. That's also a great benefit.
It certainly is. And you're getting free money. And Peter and I will tell you, as 2 self-employed folks, if somebody's going to give us free money for putting money in a 401k, we want to max that out. And, but we also talked about Roth conversion. So, that's a very big key component to pre-retirement planning as well. We don't want to discount that. And, that's the conversion is taking money from an IRA or a 401k and converting it into a Roth IRA, where it would eventually be income tax free for not only you, your spouse, but also your beneficiaries as well.
Okay, well, let's get into a little bit of that math process, and we don't have to get into actual numbers with the math here, just kind of the concept of arriving at the conclusion of where and when certain kinds of vehicles may be the most appropriate, or at least appropriate to consider for our retirement situation, Chris. The income allocation process is a bit of a reverse engineering process to building that retirement picture.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And, we start thinking backwards on some of these things. I know everybody wants to be forward thinking, but sometimes you want to do the role reversal here and go in reverse. And, as we build a retirement plan, one of the things we ask folks is, look, what's the life expectancy we're looking at here? Are we looking at something, everybody passed away in their early 80s in your family, or did everybody live to be 102 and smoke non-filtered cigarettes and drank whiskey? Who doesn't have a grandmother or great grandmother that did that? So,
Yep.
yeah. So, those are certainly very important factors in, kind of back building and, and looking at all these different concepts from a lot of different views, Peter, or different angles, if you will, because there's where you get to see, maybe some missteps or where you're leaving a piece open or something like that, if that makes sense.
And also, Chris, looking at the spending rather than the lump sum is part of that math equation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody may say, well, hey, I got $1 million, I got it made in the shade. And it's like, all right, well, how much, what's your budget? So, well, I need $100,000 a year to live off of. Okay, well, how much of that's coming from Social Security? About 24,000. All right, so you need to take $76,000 plus the tax out of $1 million. That's at least 7.6% withdrawal rate. That's pretty dangerous going into retirement.
Yeah. So we not have to work through that math, and then we are subtracting out those sources of income, and then determining the cash flow rate. Your point there, Chris, what you're talking about, how much we can withdraw. That seems to be a point of debate and confusion among folks as we are looking at what the average rate of return on assets has been versus how much we can actually withdraw from those assets consistently, dependably, and reliably in retirement. And that's another part of this process that you work through to help people make this transition to the celebration of all their hard work retirement.
Sure. Yeah. People are probably familiar with the 4% rule. You withdraw 4% of your retirement and then adjust it for inflation. And that's just, it's not really a rule. It's a theory, if you will. And, there are ways to create more income than that. A lot of different instruments that we're able to use. And, between structured notes, covered call strategies, using the index annuity space that has, very high, some higher payouts than 4%, right? Because if you need $40,000 a year, right, that's $1 million at 4%. That's about what you're getting in CDs now as rates are coming down, right? Well, if you had an annuity that had a 7% payout, you need $600,000 to do that, not a million.
You just
So which one ties up more money?
you,
A million
you
dollar
just freed
CD
up
or
400,000.
just
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yep. Yeah. And we preach that, and preach that, and preach that. I don't want to tie up my money in an annuity. Said, you know what? You may actually be freeing more money up.
Yep. Chris, we have talked here about the process of making this transition to retirement, the qualities that we need from our money, the growth, safety, liquidity, income, the trade that we make for the money. We trade our valuable time, the most important and valuable asset that we have, time, for money, so that we can hopefully one day be able to stop making that trade and enjoy more of our time, but do it with confidence. We all strive during our lives to maintain comfort, and a large part of that is our financial well-being. Unfortunately, a lot of people have their plans set up in such a way that forces outside of their control determine and dictate the outcome that they will achieve. You strive to help people put a plan together. Maybe your most valuable investment, having that plan in place that helps to address issues, things that have derailed others in the past, risks and issues that we will face throughout retirement, so that we can truly celebrate all that hard work that we've had over our career.
Yeah. And it's funny, Peter, because we use a number of different resources. And I was just having a conversation with somebody kind of on our infrastructure side. And he said, Chris, the difference between you and most of these other people I deal with is you're an actual planner. You actually plan and you service your clients. And it's a nice compliment. I don't mean to be self, whatever you want to call it here, giving myself our own compliments, but, it's when you plan, process driven. And who was the coach of Alabama there forever?
Saban?
Yeah, Nick Saban, very process driven, and we are the same way. There are processes and plans, and you have to be able to evolve that plan because economics change, interest rate environments change, taxation rules change, legislation changes, and you have to be aware of what's going on out there and be able to make those changes. And it's a lot different than retiring with a a lifestyle 2025 fund thinking that's going to take you through retirement. It very well may not.
I'm surprised I got that one, Chris. I'm usually terrible at name that coach, but if I needed a financial coach, Northwestern Ohio, I know who I would be turning to. Chris McIntire at McIntire Retirement Services helps you lay out the game plan. This is your game plan for retirement. If you would like to get your game plan for retirement, the document, the written plan addressing the issues that you will face and how to address income, investments, taxes, healthcare, legacy, so many more issues throughout retirement, pick up the phone. Give Chris McIntire a call, 800-868-1194. You can visit online, McIntireRetirementServices.com, McIntireRetirementServices.com, or again, the phone number, 800-868-1194. Chris, always a pleasure speaking with you. We do want to celebrate all that hard work, but not just with a day off, with a confident retirement. And that's exactly what you've helped so many set up.
Yes, and I am a Buckeye through and through. I want to throw that out there on the way out. Thanks, buddy. Have a good one, everybody. Be safe.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Chris.
Tune into Chris McIntire's full radio program and visit McIntireRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris McIntyre. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.